the Catholics and the Protestants, you all are fighting, but yet still you can talk and try to negotiate. And I say, you're a hypocrite, you're a Catholic, and we fight the Protestants, and I see you over there doing business with our Protestants. You are or whatever this is, whoever's fighting down here. You all do business together. That don't mean you're a hypocrite because you're intelligent, you're doing business. Nixon or somebody, one of them see Mao of China is arch enemy, want to blow up America today, but they still talk and do business and try. Now I'm a hypocrite because I got a white fellow working for me in all white country. I'm a hypocrite because I got white fans. This is silly. So why don't you read something like this and just say, ain't you chicken? No, I ain't doing you know, I done read you and I done came on you. You ain't used to no black man and mainly no boxer having no sense. I'm not just a boxer. I'm taught by Elijah Muhammad. I can talk all week on millions of subjects. And you do not have enough wisdom to call me on television. You do not have enough. You are too small mentally to talk with nothing that I represent. I'm serious. You in this little TV show, there's nothing to talk about. If you got some more questions I have, I bet you I'll hit you up right here and there. There ain't no way you can talk to me. All of you are tricking.
It's a phantom of the chakra, slumdog opera, rap radar 9 right, okay, play a mashup. I went from nothing to something like the planet Earth. I showed these major labels how to make a man from dirt and breathe in his nostrils, fill him up with gospel, leave him at the mountaintop, blasting at the Rothschilds, let chill, let voodoo man from the lost land, the moon sands, the Zulu scan, just real black history. Robert Lee Ripley, believe it or not, I'm gonna spit it till they strip me. Crown me with thorns, march me up the hill, crucifix, spit and ditch me. The rest is all mystery. I'll be in New Orleans making water out of whiskey, casting judgment on the IRS who ordered it, the gypsies. Gypsy, I got the game tipsy, staggering out the club, dropping coins in the chicken, papers of nobility.
Give me on your show and ask me, you ready for me? Bud Chauffeur said, this was a big bomb, this was drop on me now. Bud Chauffeur said you got white men working in your camp and you're teaching the white men the devil. I'm supposed to be trapped now. And look there, how you gonna trap me? How you gonna get me on a TV and trap me? You can read this down book all you want. And my leader is Elijah Muhammad, who preaches the doom of America, and the biggest white people in America more wiser than you here, they don't tackle us. Now, how are you going to get me on a TV show and get something ready for me? You had to have it all planned. I didn't know you had a book ready for me. They going to ask me all this. The high stage is so nice, and you're so we have a nice talk to me, and then you get me on TV. This is a serious thing you got me with. You are contradicted. You're attacking my religion. You're turning white people who are associates like I'm thinking they're devils and I'm bad, and you got me on a TV show that's serious, and this is a death question. Suppose I couldn't answer that, you had me cornered. That's why I said, like what? Yeah, you laugh now because I caught you.
Yes, sir. Peace and black power, family. Man, oh man. So, Infowars, these people love commentating on slavery, but they don't have the slightest idea what it is. They always try to put the blame on, oh, slavery is happening over here. People not talking about that slavery over here. Oh, slavery is going on in the world. We all know it's going on in the world, bro, and ain't nobody excusing that. But you acting like somebody can go to court and say, man, people be murdering all the time, so it's okay for me to get away with murder because he murdering over there. It don't matter if I murdered. Talking about some of my ancestors. Well, I'm gonna just play the video, and then we're gonna get up into this.
And of course, that's a rhetorical question. There aren't any white people in the United States that are living, even whose grandparents or probably great-grandparents had slaves, okay? I would say maybe, I don't know.
Like slavery is the end all, be all beef between white and black people. Slavery was an institution, one institution out of many things went into oppressing black people. Just one. And he just got it all figured out.
I don't know, depending on how old you are, maybe your great-grandparents had slaves or whatever, but you haven't had any slaves for generations. But there are people in the Islamic world that still have slaves. You know, we have more slavery now in the world than we did at the time of the Civil War.
Which may be true, though, but that's not even the case. These people kidnap people from West Africa, from Spain, took all of their wealth, labor, and resources, transferred it to them. They be trying to make it seem like they was getting some petty little scrubs. We're gonna get into it though. We're gonna show who they was really, really getting. But these people have no idea what slavery was, the impact that it had on these people. Like the West wouldn't even exist if the institutions that was in place before slavery was allowed to function, how they was living before we basically brought them out. Come on, man. But let's let them bury itself.
We were not the only country to have slaves. And when we turn this into a black versus white issue, we ignore the fact that the Islamic and the Arab states had a great deal to do with the slave trade. They were the ones who captured people out of Africa. And when we were looking at this situation with Muhammad Ali, when he died and everybody was...
Then he gonna disrespect the God Ali. What? Like, how dare you? Why would you even bring him up? Come on, man.
Eulogizing him. There was a lady from Somalia who had immigrated to the West, and she said, I could not believe that this man would take the name of people who had and were conducting slavery. She said at the time he changed his name from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali, there were slaves, and still are, in Saudi Arabia. And he got rid of the name.
He don't even know nothing about Islam, because true Islamic history, not the stuff that the British helped them put together, don't even have anything to do with Saudi Arabia. Like Saudi, first of all, there's no place called Saudi Arabia. Them people don't own the whole continent or the whole little landmass, not no continent. But come on, bro.
Cassius Clay, do you know who Cassius Clay was? Do you know who the original Cassius Clay was? You know, Pam?
No.
You know, I didn't know until this came up, and a couple of people mentioned it. I went back and looked at the history of this guy. This was a guy in Kentucky. He was an abolitionist in Kentucky. And it was a hot issue because there were people in Kentucky who wanted to keep people as slaves. But Cassius Clay became an abolitionist. And his family had slaves, and he rejected that, and he fought against that. And he set up a newspaper, and he was shot in the chest by...
Oh my God, he set up a newspaper and he was shot in the chest. Goodness gracious, let's get that man a monument right now.
A guy who was pro-slavery, and he pulled out his Bowie knife and stuck the guy and, threw him in a ditch. And then he set up his newspaper, and he was attacked at the newspaper. So he got a cannon and put it in his printing press room to fight off people and armed it, set it up as an arsenal to defend the Second Amendment, to defend his First Amendment. And eventually he had a group of 60 people.
It's still not about slavery, though. This a joker, bro. To defend First and Second Amendment, bro, what they got to do with anything? Like, you trying to sell Muhammad Ali having a slave name.
Overtake that printing press and burn it to the ground. That didn't stop Cassius Clay. He continued to fight as a newspaper guy. He moved his printing press to a neighboring state where he could do that and still continue to publish, although he had the printing presses elsewhere and still brought the information in. And out of ignorance, see, that's the thing. Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay, was ignorant about history. He didn't know what was his left hand, which was his right hand. He didn't know the people who were against him, and he didn't know the people who were for him. So he got rid of this name, Cassius Clay, because he said, that's a slaver's name. No, it was the name of a guy who risked his life, who put everything on the line to stop slavery. And then Muhammad Ali took the name of people who were keeping slaves at the time.
Guide them. Now let's get up into this, family. Let's get up into this one. All right. So he don't know what a slave name is, because there's no way that if Muhammad Ali ancestors were still in Africa, still living as indigenous people in America, or still living in Europe, there's no way that his last name would have been Clay. Clay is the slave name because without slavery, he wouldn't have had the name. Now, can we say without slavery, would he still have the name Muhammad Ali? Let's find out. Where do I want to go first with this? All right. So we're going to talk about Islam early history, but let's go here though. I'm going to go here in the New York Times. They talk about the violences in the world now, and they keep saying Islam not comparable to the West. But look up this word. It talked about the tolerance between Jews, Christians, and Muslims that was created in Muslim Spain before the Renaissance, which black people introduced. And I told this joker, David Knight, they told me, ha, 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 I needed a good laugh. But we're going to get into what ended the Dark Ages. The East was not separated from the West, nor was Muslim from Jew or Christian. That times offers. It continues an eternal message more relevant today than ever before. In one room, statues include the 12th century Jewish sage, all of this stuff, but I'm not about to go through all of that, man. But all of these people living in Europe at the time, that's the picture I'm trying to paint, was one people, Muslim, Jews, and Christian, because at this time, if we look at the Christians, that was mainly white people, and Jews are Hebrews, and Muslims was black people from West Africa and from the Levant. But the early Christians still didn't even follow the Christianity y'all be trying to push. They followed Tawahido, which is the oneness of the Creator. They didn't follow the Trinity like you be trying to promote the ancient Christians practice. That's some European concepts. Tawahido turned to Tawheed, the basic principle of Islam, which you can't find in any other language but in Ethiopia. While you bringing out the Somalian lady, one Somalian lady out of everything. Like, she ain't got no research. What research did she pull out? No disrespect to her. Because, of course, Islamic terrorism, it exists in Somalia, but she can't make it seem like it's just something that just came. I mean, it's something that didn't just come. West Africa, this is 1235 AD. I just want to show how Islam was already there. The Islamic the kingdom, the Mali Empire, was founded by Sandiata Keita, and this was a medieval Islamic West African state of the Mandinka from 1235 to 645. At the height, it stretched from West Africa, the coast of West Africa, Mauritania, all the way to Timbuktu in the River Niger. It is most notably known for the most famous Mansa Musa, who was the most richest person in the world at that time. But I want to jump right here. The Mali emperors were almost all of the Keita dynasty, and they traced their lineage back to Bilal. You could say, well, they just made it up. That's up for you to debate. I'm showing you right here that Islam was in West Africa as far back as Bilal. His descendants set up an empire that was larger than any part in Europe at that time. Any part. Now, where I want to go, we're going to get into all of this, though. I'm going to show you. Them boys don't know nothing they be talking about. They just be up there talking. The Dark Ages, because I told him that don't forget that black people ended the Renaissance, and they was Muslims when they did it, and basically Hebrews too. Shout out to my black Hebrew Israelites. The Dark Ages is a period basically between 500 and 1,000. If we look between 500 and 1,000 AD in 711, we have Brother Tariq going across the Strait of Gibraltar into Spain and kicking the Visigoths out of Spain, the ones who just sacked the Roman Empire that basically caused the Dark Ages. So we gotta be for real. Nothing was going on in Europe at that time. The Queen of Spain, who expelled the Moors, who was basically one of the most powerful empires in the world at that time, if she had the ability to expel the Moors or the remnants of what was left, because most Moors ran out because of the Arab slave trades, like you do say. Arab slave trades did happen against black people, but you lying though. It was Arabs trying to suppress the original bloodline of the black Muslim Moors and Saracens and Berbers. And Berbers don't mean nothing but barbarians. They don't have nothing to do with that present day population, because people in East Africa and Somalia, they was also called Berbers too, way before people in North Africa was called Berbers, and people in Nubia was called Barbara, way before anybody else was too. But these people in it the Dark Ages. Jealous Arabs with European help enslaved these people. Jewish people, they also played a part into it too, because they had to supplant this lineage. And how we know, let's go into what these people looked like. This from the Song of Roland. When Roland sees these misbegotten men who are more black than ink, is on the pen with no parts white, only their teeth. Come on, man, they're so black that the only thing that you can see is their teeth, whether they was being racist or anything. We know how they look. And this is a depiction of Saracens that I sent him. These are people who went up in Europe and conquered. It wasn't no Arabs. The Arabs trying to steal that history. Let's see where we going to. These people created these biblical lands, because another thing they want to tell y'all, because they don't even talk about it, act like they scared of Jewish people, but they want to talk about how Israel was almost in East Africa. They was going to set Israel up in East Africa because they're making up this geography as they go with this Saudi Arabia and Israel stuff. They're trying to create biblical fairy tales that's not even there. It don't even have anything to do with them. They say that Islam is not compatible with the West. I'm going in showing you all these Islamic empires and the stupidity that this dude was spewing. But this is Sidi Muhammad. He was the one who signed the Treaty of Peace and Friendship with Europeans that said, y'all got right to a passage in the Mediterranean, because they didn't even really have a navy at that time. And yes, people was getting kidnapped by black Muslims at that time, but white people were still kidnapping black Muslims. And the Treaty of Peace and Friendship supposedly ended that. But the way that these European slick self got away from the Treaty of Peace and Friendship is they passed the Black Christian codes. Let me see if I can find this tab on here. I just want to show you what most of the slaves that came to America and Europe, they came from the Senegal region. The Senegal and the Senegambia region was basically close to the Mali Empire in part. They was like Mandinka type people. But look where they go though. They end up going to Americas, and they end up going up to Europe. Not to mention the people that they shipped from over here back to Europe, which Infowars won't tell you because they don't know the history. They just freestyle it as they go. You can go look up on Yale.com. You can go up in here and read the first treaty the United States ever got with a black Muslim emperor, and they were still trying to enslave his subjects. But from 1786 to 1816, they passed a series of treaties. But the treaty, and it's not even with Morocco, it's with Marrakesh, and it was a territory in the empire before this little state of Morocco existed. But this was in 1786. I'm gonna come back to that one right there. Them gonna be my last one. Them gonna be my little daggers. I'm trying to find one more thing. Oh, the Treaty of Darn. This is what set up Saudi Arabia. When the treaty was signed, the House of Saud of Saudi Arabia basically was a British protectorate. This basically gave them the ability to satisfy and steal all of that land. But let's go back though. When black people was running this movement we call Islam, Abd al-Malik, he issued gold coins. At the back, you can see his step pyramid, which is African, Egyptian. He's not doing no Arab stuff. But when he did this sparked a war between the Umayyad dynasty and the Byzantine. It caused the Umayyad Arabs, but that's just because Arabs are trying to steal that history. These people call themselves Saracens, and they was called Saracens in their time. And when they was in Africa and Europe, they were called Moors. But when he issued this currency, he started a war. But you know what's funny about the thing of him starting a war is that we found out that when Gaddafi was going to issue a gold dinar too, guess what? The same white supremacy basis. Why they saying just slavery? It's not even just about slavery. It's about the system of white supremacy, which really didn't exist until after 1492, because it wasn't nothing supreme about being white people. These people had to kidnap you and brainwash you to forget your history, so never again will your ancestors rule the world like they did before. Where's this tab that I just had open? And they say that the Arabs was the ones catching African slaves. Come on, man, let's get it. The Portuguese and the Spanish sought to get permission to basically enslave people. Pope Nicholas, he issued a Dum Diversa in 1452. So this was before Columbus even set sail. It said to reduce any Saracen / Muslim and pagan, which is basically black people. This is black people at that time, because they don't say no Arabs and any other unbeliever. My bad, this is unbelievable, but any other unbeliever to perpetual slavery. Perpetual slavery, and this facilitated the Portuguese slave trade in West Africa. But don't get your hopes up just because I said the Portuguese, because it's not like I would put my own self in a trap. I just know history and know that the Portuguese, and they're not even anything. They just didn't capitalize off of slavery like y'all did, because they didn't perpetually enslave people like y'all did. Portugal don't have people in Portugal who identity they stole and who wealth they just sitting on. But King Alfonso got permission to invade, search out, capture, vanquish, subdue all Saracens. Come on, man. We gotta be for real about this. What we talking when we be spewing that stupidity to perpetual slavery? This is Christians, man. Gave way to the doctrine of discovery, and the Catholic Church was splitting up the world. See, at this time, they be talking about this religious freedom. Religious freedom didn't exist in Europe until Muslims went up in there and showed them that, hey, you don't have to just be underneath the church. The church was suppressing all science and everything. We went in there. They wasn't even bathing. The queen took 3 baths in her life. No, 2, my bad. I'm trying to be generous. She took 2 baths in her lifetime, which I covered and what Infowars won't tell you about Islam. Now, so we know they had permission to enslave, and we know West Africa was good with rice and cotton, just to name two crops that they was good in. But cotton plantations spread in the deep South, according to federal censuses in 1790. Approximately 650,000 slaves worked in rice, tobacco, and indigo. By 1850, the country had 3.2 million slaves, 1.8 million of whom worked in cotton. By the middle of the 19th century, the slave states provided 2/3 of the world's cotton supply. Now, when these people be trying to say, oh, not everybody owned slaves, oh, not everybody, we never owned slaves, we never had slaves. Like, how do you make sails for boats? You can't tell me that wasn't made out of cotton. So you can't tell me that cotton was more than just putting people clothes on. It was fuel at that time. Cotton and its free labor fueled the United States. It's nothing, no other way to get about it. And we already know Abraham Lincoln didn't free the slaves, or was the Civil War about slavery. It was about preserving the Union. And we already know that the Confederates really wanted to be King Cotton. And this Wikipedia, but I don't even have to go far because y'all boys weak. King Cotton, as a slogan, summarized the strategy used before the American Civil War of 1861 through 65 by pro-secessionists in the southern states to claim the feasibility of secession and to prove there was no need to fear a war with the northern states. The theory held that control over cotton exports would make the Confederacy economically prosperous, an independent Confederacy economically prosperous. And they knew it was all together because there was a textile industry in New England, and these people in the North was passing legislations along with people in the South to get slaves, who they call runaway slaves, who wasn't even runaway slaves, to get them picked up. So we gotta be real what we saying. And you want to disrespect Muhammad Ali talking about he gonna leave a slave name to pick up a slave name? It's not his name, bro. None of his ancestors picked the name Clay. It was a name that was imposed on these free people who went up into Europe and who brought y'all out the dark ages. You just study the Moors. That's all you gotta do. I don't know why y'all trying to be freestylers. Y'all just make it up as y'all go. Oh, I know history in the Moors. I mean, I don't know why black people want to be Muslim. They hate black people. Stop lying. Arabs hate black people, but it's more Muslims in Africa than any other place. It's more black people who Muslims than any other people. Of course they're gonna enslave them because we the original. Just look at the land that the original Umayyad would have. The Afro-Asiatics. You don't know nothing about them. You don't know nothing about slavery. Just stop it. Just kill it. Disrespecting Muhammad Ali, y'all boy need to apologize for that, man. That was real dirty. But this is the last free publicity Infowars get for me. They talk about the truth about slavery. Like people don't know that slaves still exist in the world, but they act like black people free. They act like black people have a right to self-determination. They act like black people can write their own laws. They act like black people pick to be called African Americans, pick to become citizens. They act like the free black people who was in America even picked to get citizenship, even though they wasn't citizens themselves. They was inhabitants who were more closely to be identified with Native Americans than with citizens of the United States. They act like black people. They even said that the black people enslaved themselves. These people are some jokes and they jokers. If black people had a referendum and when we have it, they won't promote it. But they all about this Brexit. I'm done. I just wanted to do a quick live stream exposing stupidity. Too easy. Boys don't know nothing about slavery. Got a lot of opinions. Just don't make sense. Peace.